Hello everyone. Today we'll be looking into future tense of verbs, that is 동사, and this is in page number 85 of the material that is given in the description box. So, coming to our lesson, we'll be looking into how to do something. How to say that you will do something, like will run, will eat, will do, will meet, will greet, will grow, whatever it is. So, coming to our table, which is of course there today too. So, we'll be starting with hada, which is one of the most plainest and easiest straightforward of verbs, and we'll be seeing how hada behaves in informal speech, both in written and spoken form. So will do. Will do is 할 거다, 할 거야. Won't do would be 하지 않을 거다, 안 할 거다. 하지 않을 거야, 안 할 거야. So if you see here, I have put tick marks for 하지 않을 거다 and 안 할 거야. Why is because 하지 않을 거다 and 안 할 거야 is more common than 안 할 거다 and 하지 않을 거야. So there are two forms of most of the negative stuff. Like to say something in negative, you can have the negative part at the end, or the negative part somewhere in the middle or in the beginning, or something like that. And some forms, in some situations, be it written or spoken or formal or informal, depending on whatever the situation is, some forms are more common than the other. But then, just because you don't know or you're not used to what is common and what is uncommon, and you say or write the uncommon ones, it doesn't mean that you have done wrong or you have been impolite or anything like that. It's absolutely correct. And even if you make mistakes, it's absolutely okay to make mistakes, because most Koreans would understand that you are a beginner, you are a foreigner, and you do make mistakes, and most people would still praise you for trying, like putting in the effort to try and speak the language and practice. So as long as, you wouldn't even have to apologize, but of course it's good if you apologize. So coming to the conjugation rules. The conjugation rules for future tense are pretty simple when compared to the past and present tense and all the mix and matchups and exceptions that we saw up until now. So, as usual, you would begin with taking the da off at the end of the plain dictionary form of the 동사, whatever it is you're handling. And after taking it off, of course, you would look if the 동사 has a 받침 or not. So, first, we will be starting with 동사 that does not have a 받침, and if it does not have a 받침, you would add real as 받침. After adding real as 받침 in the place of da that you took off, you would just add a 거다. And that would become, like as you saw earlier, 하다 became 할 거다. The same way, 가다 would become 갈 거다, 오다 올 거다, 만나다 만날 거다, 잘하다 잘할 거다. And the next one is if you have 받침. And if you have 받침, again, it's not that hard of a change that would be happening there. All you gotta do is you would add urkoda at the end. That is like in the place of the da that you took off at the end, just substitute the da with urkoda. So we have some examples given here. Mukta would become mogurkoda. So it's literally urkoda replacing the da, and you're not doing anything to the other syllables there. Anta 앉을 거다. 읽다 읽을 거다. 입다 입을 거다. 잡다 잡을 거다. And now we'll be learning an exception, and one of the only exceptions that we are going to see in today's lesson for the second rule. That is the rule that we saw right now, the ones with button. It's just that when the button is real, you don't exactly need to add much there. If the button is real, you just need to add koda at the end. That's as much as it needs. And it would become like mirda would become mirkoda, 날다 날거다, 살다 살거다, 들다 들거다. An irregular form which does not kind of go along with any of the rules that we saw here is tutta, and it is if you do remember, it is a pretty common visitor when it's, contestant when it comes to irregular verbs, and tutta would become thiril koda. So the button is changing and you're also adding urkoda there. So that might be a bit hard. The only hard thing here, but then you already know that when thutta changes to any other form, the button becomes real. So that is a pretty common affair when it comes to the word for listen or hear, that is thutta. And now we'll be seeing the negative form of it, and that is pretty much nothing. All you gotta do is, of course, you don't have the da at the end, so make sure you remember that. And in the place of that da, you would just add chianir koda. That is, you're having the negative part come at the end. That is the only case we are speaking about here. So hada would become haji anil koda. Khada, khaji anil koda. Oda, oji anil koda. Sada, saji anil koda. And all of these are the ones without button. And the next given examples are those with button. But then, be it with button or without button, both behaves in the same way. You just add jianir koda at the end. So it would become 먹지 않을 거다, 입지 않을 거다, 앉지 않을 거다, 밀지 않을 거다. So if you see here, all the ones given are written forms. All of them are written forms because you have that da at the end. It is pretty clear that it's written forms. And if you want to make it into spoken form, this da would just change to ya. And it would be 하지 않을 거야. 가지 않을 거야. It would just be that. There's nothing much changing there. And if you want to change it into the other form in which the negative part comes in the beginning and the verb comes at the end, you will just take this part to the beginning, and you wouldn't have this here at as like double bottom here, and you wouldn't have this too. You would just have an har koda, and that har koda, when it is in spoken speech, it would become har koya. So an har koya, an har koya. So it is pretty much the same rules in work there, you just have that unmoving back and forth depending on where you want to use it. And then you have some example sentences given down here. 집에 갈 거야? Listen very carefully how I am reading these sentences, because when it comes to normal statements in Korean and questions, you don't have any grammar change happening anywhere. The only thing that changes is the tone and pitch of your voice. So, will you go home? When you're asking that, you would ask, 집에 갈 거야? So you're literally increasing the pitch of what you're asking at the end, like the pitch of the end of your sentence. That's what defines a statement as whether it is just simply a sentence or whether it is a question. Sarah will swim. So, 사라는 수영할 거야. It's just completely in the same pitch and it is almost completely flat. So, and that is different from the first 집에 갈 거야? 사라는 수영할 거야. 다윗은 골리앗을 이길 거야. 난 방에서 기타 칠 거야. 조는 박물관에 들어갈 거야. And all these four sentences are different from 집에 갈 거야. If I am saying that I am going home or I will go home, that would just be 집에 갈 거예요. If it is in a formal speech, if it is an informal speech, it would be 집에 갈 거야. That's it. But then, if it is a question that is given here, it would be 집에 갈 거야? So the question is 집에 갈 거야? And the statement is 집에 갈 거야. This is a difference. I hope it is clear, and it is that hope due to which that I repeated it so many times. And now we'll be looking into the new words given in these sentences. So 집 means home, house. All these things are denoted by 집. Sarah is just proper noun and same as David and Goliath. 수영 means swimming. 이기다 means to win something. 난 방에서, so 방 means room. And eso, you already know, we learned about time and place particles. It is the same thing. And 기타 is just like talking about guitar here. But then 기타 can also mean etc. And that is, once again, something you need to understand depending on the situation. Because 칠 거야. 치다 means to play something, usually denoting an instrument here. So you wouldn't play etc. You would, of course, just play an instrument or a game for that case. And from that, it becomes very clear that guitar here means guitar. Once again, John here is a proper noun. 박물관 means museum, and you can see there is a 관 at the end. So for most places like zoo, museum, aquarium, like places like this. For places like this, you usually have a 관 or won at the end. 동물원. 동물 means animals and 원 is something you would add for an institution. And 동물원 means zoo. So 원 and 권 are two syllables you would usually see at the end for most institutions like this. 들어갈 거야. 들어가다 means go inside. So you're saying that John will go inside the museum. And go inside means enter, of course. So you're literally saying that John will enter the museum. So I hope it is all clear. If you have any doubts, you can put it in the comment box, and you can also try making your own sentences and phrases, and also try practicing questions and normal statements and differentiating both with each other. We will be learning more details regarding this in the next class. Of course, I just breezed through the questions and statements differentiation part. We'll be having more examples in the next class. So we'll see each other with a new topic in the next class.